This episode of the Restoration Today podcast is brought to you by Prism Specialties and Liftify. What would happen if your company showed up at the top of Google every time someone was looking for a restoration service in your area? Your business would grow dramatically. Driving more online reviews is the best way to show up on Google and get more leads. Our partners at Liftify make it simple and easy for you to get more reviews from your customers than you ever thought possible. Visit Liftify.com to learn more and schedule a demo. This episode is also brought to you by Prism Specialties, which proudly provides a robust range of specialty restoration services to help those affected by a disaster and other unforeseen damages. Whether it's residential or commercial, Prism Specialties delivers effective recovery solutions to help contractors, adjusters, and the insured, with expertise in restoring electronics, art, documents, and textiles. This includes items like kitchen appliances, computers, works on paper, sculptures, leather goods, shoes, industrial machinery, and more. What many companies don't specialize in or may consider a total loss, Prism can restore. To learn more, visit prismspecialties.com. Hello there. Thanks for checking out this episode of the Restoration Today podcast. Today we have a hot topic. We are talking about reviews and how to get reviews and how to get good reviews and how important reviews are and all those things, all the things that honestly restoration contractors really don't like to have to worry about, but you have to worry about anyway. So I am joined by Garrett. He is the founder and CEO of Liftify. They work with a lot of companies that you have heard of. Think California Closets, Belfour, First Service, Meineke, all those companies. They know how to get reviews. They know how to take it off your plate. And they also know how to get reviews in the first place. So we are here to talk about reviews in general. So Zach, thank you very much for joining me. I'm just going to toss it over to you and have you kind of give a quick intro of yourself and your background, how you got here.
Yeah, absolutely. Michelle, thanks for having me. And thanks for everything you're doing at CNR. I know when we met, they said, you got to meet Michelle and what she's doing there. And I know tons of people in your industry that we've met that look at your content and see what you're doing and appreciate for the industry. So awesome. Thanks for having me. And so a little bit about Liftify. So we're based in Indianapolis, and we are a fast growing company that is taking a different approach to the game of review generation. And really at the core of it, what we believe is that the companies that build the strongest online reputation and build up the most reviews are going to win long term. And so as you know, the world shifts, what is becoming more important is what consumers and people say about your brand, not what you say about your brand. And so we're positioning ourselves and have built a really unique solution that helps companies like restoration businesses that we work with a lot of take it off their plate and help them get reviews on places like Google from a really high percentage of their customers, and in return help them grow their business organically, but relying less on paid channels and driving more organic leads so they can grow their business. At the end of the day, that's what it is in the short term. And then long term, it's building up a public reputation and a brand reputation that says, hey, if in your market you've got 10 times the reviews, you're the most trusted provider, your business as a whole is more valuable than competitors. And so that's really what we're doing. We're about 3 years old and serve about 1,000 companies right now, and are growing really quickly. Have been nominated for a couple of Startup of the Year awards. And so we're doing things different, but making some real headway, and excited to continue to grow and just serve a lot of great local businesses.
So share a little bit about your background. I know that this was a company that was kind of started maybe during the pandemic, and this wasn't exactly where you thought that you were going, but now here you are. So share a little bit of your story.
Yeah, absolutely. I never thought I'd be running a tech startup. I can tell you that. I've always had kind of an entrepreneurial bug, but did the corporate life. So I kind of grew up in a big Fortune 1000 company, was running digital marketing for them when I started playing around with this idea. And really, it started out of the genesis of I was looking for home service companies for my own house. We bought a house, we put on a roof, we had some HVAC issues, different things. And we're in the Indianapolis market, which is not a small market, and I looked and I didn't see a lot of recent reviews. There were some companies that had a lot, but I wanted to see like last week, people had a good experience with your brand. And so it just over a couple of years, really continuing to have experiences just as a consumer and feeling like people weren't doing it well. And I didn't understand why. And I knew the marketing tech side, like the ability to reach out to customers is not new technology. And so just this question on why don't companies do this better? And so we started with just a real bootstrapper approach of just when the pandemic hit, I wanted to help local companies, and I was home and not traveling as much like everybody else. So maybe I was bored as well, and just said, hey, I don't know if I can figure out anything here, but like, I think this matters. And I think local businesses are struggling and scared about, what's happening to them. So during the pandemic. So I'm going to try to help them with this problem. And so we started to meet via Zoom with even business owners locally that I was connected to, but we couldn't do it in person because it was during COVID. But we really just started walking through, and every owner I asked, early on I realized there was something to this, because everybody I asked, I said, do reviews matter to your business? And every owner, whether they had 2 or whether they had 500, they said, absolutely. I use them. My family uses them. We know our customers use them. And so we said, okay, well, if it matters, what do you do to get them? And it was a mix of using technology that didn't work, or their own processes relying on their teams that didn't work either because they weren't very good at doing it. It was difficult for the customer. And so through that, we really worked hand in hand with local business owners to develop a solution that took it off their plate and was really effective, and grew organically, really through word of mouth, from that as we built it out. And so we definitely started with the problem, worked with the businesses, and even today, I think are really focused on going to ground and being the best at this, not trying to do everything for your marketing, and trying to be everything to everybody, but we really want to be the best in the world at generating reviews and just deliver that for our customers, and believe that there's enough there that, provides tremendous value.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So let's start with the basics. What is the trick to actually getting a customer to leave a review? It can be so easy to just be like, hey, leave me a review if you feel like it. And then you walk away and that's it. And they're probably never going to do it. So what's the trick to actually getting someone to leave a review?
Yeah, so I'll give you two different parts of it. When we studied this and we dug into this question, one part was the company part. It's got to be simple for the company. If it's not sustainable, if there's a lot of manual processes required, or whatever, it's not going to happen. And so it's got to be really simple and really turnkey or almost automated, for the company to actually sustain executing on the ask, on that side. So we really focus on making it simple for the company and doing that. The other part is for the customer, making it really easy for them. So we say simple for the company, easy for the customer. So it's got to be one click. They can't have to log in. You can't just, say, hey, mention it on your way out, because they don't know what to do or, exactly where to go. You've got to make it really, really easy for them. And that is why people don't do it. It's because they're lazy, or they don't want to take the time. It's not really because they don't like you or they're not willing to. You just have to make it really easy. And so if you make it really, simple for the business, sustainable, really, and this is our process and this is how it goes every time, and then you make it super easy for the customer, if you do those things, people will leave you great reviews.
Yes. So what are the best platforms for reviews? Like, should you be going for them on Facebook? Should you be going for them on Google, somewhere else, your website? What do you think?
Yeah, great question. So I'll give you the example for a lot of companies that we work with a lot in the franchise world today. And even this applies to non-franchise customers as well. But for most people, and let's say a franchise, right now they get reviews, but they actually get them for their own internal surveys, or most of the time it's Net Promoter Score surveys.
Yeah.
So corporate executes some kind of review feedback loop that says, hey, how did we do 1 to 10? Leave us comments. And so actually, Michelle, that right now is the most common place people get reviews. The problem with that is 0% of customers can see that ever. Yeah. They never know. That's more an internal quality control. And so what we help companies understand is to say, hey, that's okay. I understand you can't control that, but let that happen. But around that, you've got to go get public reviews that can help you grow your business. And so focusing first on saying, hey, we've got to get public reviews. And then secondly, where, are the public review places? There's 100 different review sites. Yes. And, we try to keep it really simple. When you talk about, you're in the restoration space. So 97% of home service customers, when they look for a service, they're going to Google.
Yep.
So if 97% of people are on Google, that's got to be number one. Put most of your eggs in that basket, and you will get 97% of the market. And then secondly, we call it Google's number one, absolutely where you should. And then also have a couple secondary places as fallbacks. So Facebook can be a great one, depending on, market, things like Nextdoor, House, other places people might be, commenting in their neighborhood groups, different things, saying, hey, my basement's leaking. Who should I call, that you recommend? I think people would be surprised how often people are doing that, today as they're trying to evaluate it. So, so first, focus on public reviews because that's what consumers can see, and then focus on where the eyeballs are. So number one, Google, and then have some secondary applications as well that you want to build a good reputation upon.
How does Google view reviews when it comes to analytics and SEO and kind of that game?
Yeah, it is the number one factor in local search today. And so I'll give you kind of the 5 elements of a review that factor into SEO. And, because a lot of people understand, okay, reviews matter, but what actually is Google looking at? So number one, Google is looking at the number of reviews that you have. The more you have, the more weight they're going to give to it. Secondly is your star rating. So are you a 3.2 or are you a 4.9? They're going to rate a company that's a 4.8 higher, and that's going to be a factor in the rankings. Third is recency or frequency. So a lot of people don't realize that part of the algorithm is how many new reviews do you get continually for your business? And that's absolutely a factor. We've seen that actually as probably the primary factor, even over number of reviews, is how often do you get them? So that's the third factor. The fourth factor is comments. When people comment on, what you did, Google's reading those words. So when they say, hey, we had fire damage, we had water damage, whatever, Google's looking at that. And they're also looking at your responses to the reviews, and they want you to respond. So those comments and responses do play in to search rankings on that. And then the fifth one is new this last year in 2022 was what Google calls service tags, or when you go to leave a review, it actually says, what did this company do for you? And you can literally tag water damage, fire damage, plumbing, HVAC, whatever it is. And Google, you can bet on the back end, is actually factoring that in to say, hey, when somebody searches for water damage, what's the company locally that has the most reviews in the last 30 days for water damage? And what's their average rating, down to the keyword level. And so Google's getting much more specific as to what you're good at. And so now is actually a great time for people to jump into this, because with that, you can really gain on some of the keywords or the search traffic that you really want by just getting votes. Is essentially what a review is, right? It's a vote for, hey, this company does a good job at XYZ service. And so all of those things are factors in your search rankings and how it impacts it. I won't share the brand, but we were recently with one of our franchises in a home service industry, and their data scientists from stage at their franchise convention said over 50% of our digital leads last year came from the Google business page across the entire company. And so if you look at that over their whole business, and this is a close to $1 billion, different industry, but home service company, over 30% of all of their leads for the year came from that Google business page, which is 100% driven by reviews, and where that placement is. And so their message to their franchisees and their businesses were, you have to focus on this. Like, if you're not focusing on this, you are missing leads every time, because this is how you show up in organic search in today's world.
Okay, so owners or PMs or whoever it may be here, yeah, I know reviews are important, but I still don't like getting them. I still don't like asking. So what do the logistics look like, maybe of Liftify, of a good platform that actually will help you go from, this is a great idea, to actually getting the reviews?
Yeah. So I think the first part on the company side, bring it back to keeping it simple for the business, right? Is you need to work with a partner, like us, that's going to figure out with your CRM or POS system or whatever process to make it really efficient for you to get them data, or ask the customers. And so when we work with companies, we'll actually do a call with them and onboarding to figure out what the best path is, and then how we can go about getting those reviews, and then setting that up for them. And so, on the front end, you keep it simple. You don't rely on your techs in the field. Like it needs to be automated, from a leadership level. You need to control it and provide those customers to a partner that's helping you with this. And then on the customer side, I think making it easy for them and making it relatable is you've got to have a really good strategy to really personalize it and make it easy. And so like when we work with companies, we do custom messaging for all of them that will talk about it being really local. Thanks for supporting our local business. Would you help us? We're trying to get to 100 reviews or 500 reviews or whatever. And so we're going to make it really personal. And sometimes we'll make it from the technician in the field or that project manager say, hey, this is Michelle. I was at your house, would you help us? And so we'll kind of craft that narrative. But whether you're doing that, on your own or using a technology, like that personalization really matters in that flow. And I always tell people just, write a message that you would respond to, as a consumer. And that's, distinctly different than a lot of just apps or platforms that are just going to give you, hey, rate us 1 to 10. This is about saying, hey, this is my local company, please help. So I think, making it really personalized and then making sure you're using a solution that makes it really easy for that customer to leave that review, takes them there in one click, doesn't require them to log in or, select different apps. Like, how do you make it easy and make it personal on the customer side?
Have you found that it's been extra effective at all for companies that might incentivize either their team when they're leaving to say something about, hey, leave my name in your review or something like that? People get incentivized or extra rewards if their name is in a review, or likewise, like have customers ever been incentivized? I've been into stores before where it's like, if you leave us a review, we'll give you 20% off right now kind of thing, right? Have you ever seen anything like that happen? I know you don't want to get gimmicky reviews. You want them to be real, but have you seen anything like that?
Yeah, it's a great question. We've seen it all as far as what people are currently doing. So I'll give two kind of traps that I would avoid, or cautions to people around that. On the consumer side, if you're talking about places like Google, it's against Google's terms of service to incentivize your customers to leave reviews. Okay. And so I know people do it, right? But I think the risk you run is if anybody ever comments on, the review or leaves a review, says, hey, had a great experience, thanks for the gift card, or thanks for the discount or whatever, I would be very leery of that as a business because Google's algorithms are looking for that, and eventually that will come up and they may factor that in and begin to penalize you, for that, or could even suspend your page. And so our recommendation to consumers and how we do it is follow Google's terms of service, play by the rules, and you can still get plenty of reviews. I think the other thing is, like, we worked with a company here in Indianapolis that was giving away, as a cleaning business, they clean trash cans is what they do. And they were giving away free cleanings when we met them. And once we kind of took that away and we drove more results without that, his feedback was, logistically for my company, this is so much easier. Like, he's like, I didn't realize how much time we were wasting in giving gift cards or scheduling free cleanings and crediting people back. And there's a lot of effort, that goes into that. And so our message on the customer side is, you don't need to do it. Save your money, save the time, and don't incentivize them. And then you'll be playing by the rules of Google anyway with that. On the other side of it, with employees, you can incentivize them. I think we've seen some situations where I think that can become very expensive, right? Especially if you're good at it. I know we have a business that we work with now that, is paying their employees a couple $100 per review. And wow, when we talk to them, they spent, $20,000 last year getting reviews, and they did a decent job. They probably got 10% of their customers to leave reviews, which, from our perspective is still not great, right? But from the owner, he was like not happy about his reviews, right? Because he spent 20 grand to get them. And so our message was like, hey, you don't have to do that, to get reviews. Like, you're paying too much per review, really, at that point. So what we recommend on the employee side is our platform will actually track when people get reviews. Is you don't really need a monetary value sometimes, but doing personal recognition, making it a competition within the group, that can be really motivating. And so absolutely, like, my recommendation, if I was, with a restoration company and with their team, I would say, hey, don't worry about incentivizing your guys to do it and your team members out there. But when people get it, call it out in team meetings, track how many times their name's getting called out and say, hey, Michelle, you got 2 reviews last week. Here's what people said about Michelle. Everybody give a round of applause for Michelle, or whatever. And what that's going to do is, Zach sitting there in the room and saying, okay, I'm going to get 3 next week because Michelle beat me last week and I want to beat her this week. And so I think you can kind of gamify it and make it part of your culture. And it also tells your employees you're watching, that. And so I think we've seen a lot of companies, really healthy culture around reviews by just making it fun. I think the other thing it can also do is when people leave comments and you've kind of built it into your team structure and somebody says, hey, Michelle made me really comfortable in my home and just relieved a lot of the anxiety that I had around it. And I really just loved working with her on this project. It also gives that manager or owner or leader an opportunity with Michelle and the other team members in the room to say, Michelle, what did you do in that situation that made everybody feel like that? It's probably not in a training manual, on exactly what are the steps, but it's probably more of those soft skills on, hey, I just took a minute and just asked them about the problem and how it's impacting their life or, whatever that is, those things. And so I think if you build it into your culture, it's really less about the incentive and more about just making sure you celebrate it and also making sure you learn from it. And if you do that, all of a sudden, all of your team members know how Michelle's great with customers, right? And then that turns into, them being better with their customers as well. So that's how I would approach it. I would avoid incentives if you can. And just focus on, asking customers because it helps you and doing a really great job and having your team members, celebrated when they do that.
Perfect. Yeah, those are good answers. Any sort of celebration is a good thing. And I've seen not $200. I've seen throw them a $20 gift card every once in a while. And little things can go a long way, especially with inflation, grocery prices, all those things. So anyway, okay. What is the direct correlation between reviews and revenue that you found in companies as they increase their reviews? Has it helped their revenue? Do you have concrete kind of stats that show that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with some large franchise brands. So we've been able to look at it over hundreds of markets across all of North America, year over year. And here are a couple stats for you that are real from their data at a macro level. This is a home service business as well. Is they believe in their business that every review that they earn equals about 7 new leads for the business. And so that's a factor of both the organic just showing up more and you're getting those, but also the number of times people refer, they see it, you might see other advertising, billboards, anything you're doing. What do people do? They look it up on Google, they're not remembering the phone number, right? And they actually choose to call because of the great reviews. And so, they have a data science team that goes through these analytics and they confidently told, their teams year over year, we believe every review is worth 7 leads for your business that come in. And so from a revenue perspective, what we saw last year with comparing, 200 markets in this franchise that really focused on reviews versus 200 that didn't, the ones that focused on reviews grew twice as much as the ones that didn't. So in home services in 2021, boom market, right? Everybody grew some. But these businesses that focused on reviews grew twice as much, so their increased revenue was twice as much. So if you had businesses grow, 300,000, a comparable business that focused on reviews was growing 600,000, in revenue. And that was correlated in small and large markets that they grew twice as fast. And so, at the end of the day, it is very tangibly, there is an ROI and you will see it in both your website traffic, but more so your calls, people calling and saying, hey, I want a quote or I need help. And in emergency services, it should be your number one marketing tactic because when people call, they're not getting quotes for 3 months from now, right? They need help right now. They're making a decision right now. And so you've got to be one of those first 3 people that show up on the phone or page 1. And you've got to look like the one that they want to trust, to come help them solve the problem that they have in their home or business.
Yes. Okay. All right, Zach, anything else that we should talk about when it comes to reviews or anything like that? Anything we missed?
Yeah. One other thing I would just throw out there that people often don't think about is if you have any mix of your business that's commercial, reviews can help you win in commercial situations as well. So you may be putting out bids, or they may or may not find you, via online. But we've seen a lot of companies have success with going into a commercial opportunity and showing them their 100 or 500 reviews, or putting them in a proposal or something, and saying, we're the most trusted restoration company in this space, or painting company, or whatever, and here's proof. And all those reviews don't even have to be commercial, right? Some of them will be, but it's just a fact of your quality. And I guarantee you, your competition is not doing that when they're going in and bidding on this. And so you can use reviews as a sales tactic in commercial applications and when you're making commercial sales. And I think that's probably the number one opportunity that people don't utilize. Even when they get reviews, they get how it helps them with consumers. But on the B2B side, it can absolutely help you close more business.
Awesome. Well, Zach, thank you very much for all your expertise, all your insight. You had a lot of great knowledge to share. I appreciate it. I know this is a big pain point for restorers, so this is a lot of help. I look forward to hopefully seeing you at some shows in the coming months. Good luck with all of your travels, and thanks for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
For more Restoration Today and the latest news, visit our website, cnrmagazine.com, and find the latest episodes of the Restoration Today podcast on your favorite podcasting platform.